Africa, America. You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Greetings everybody. My name is Simon Javan Okelo, and I'm excited to be here with you today for another episode of The African Father in America. I'm here with amazing guests from the UK. I'm trying to figure out I just need a moment. There's an echo in my system, so just bear with me for a second. Okay. Sometimes you just have to take a second and get it right. So I think this sounds much better. If you're joining us on YouTube, I just want to say thank you for your patience. I still get the feedback. I'm not sure why. Okay, one more time. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the Conundrum, which is a play by Paul Anthony Morris, which gives us a unique insight into the incredible mind of a man trapped in a society that has not yet evolved. Having resolved to conduct a personal life review to critique the inequality of society, our protagonist Fidel becomes alarmed by the prospect that he may also be responsible for undermining his own well-being. Perplexed by this conundrum, Fidel embarks upon an epic journey to wrestle with some of life's most fundamental questions. Who am I, and why am I here? I'm still getting the echo, so it's bothering me a lot, but I'm just going to continue. How are you guys? Do you guys hear any echo while you are watching it? Or? Okay.
We're not hearing any echo, no. So
okay, I'm just going to try one more time. Okay, that's good. And I see that we have a good audience on YouTube as well. I'm seeing people checking in over there. So I'm just going to take one more second because I've never had this problem and I just want to be sure everything is working out okay. Okay, so just a little introduction so that you know a bit about Anthony Ofoegbu. Am I pronouncing your name okay?
very correctly.
Okay. Who is an actor and also director. Anthony Ofoegbu started performing in 1981 and in 1988 he co-founded Four's Company Dance Theatre with choreographer and dramatist Christine Cubberley. Between 1991 and 1998, he was a resident collaborator and artist for Bayie Busuofo Mas Band for the National Notting Hill Carnival.
We seem to have lost your voice now. Trying to lip read.
Something here. It's bothering me too much. Anyhow, we're just going to go ahead and also introduce you a little bit to Paul Anthony Morris, who is the artistic director. And artistic director Paul Anthony Morris trained at Barbara Speak Stage School and went on to work as an actor in theater for many years. In 2006, Paul founded Crying in the Wilderness production. In 2006, his epic play, The Seer, was produced into a short documentary film in collaboration with West Yorkshire Playhouse. In 2007, Paul directed 35 Cents at the Blue Elephant Theatre and Choices for the CIA Theatre Company. With that, I just want to welcome my brother Anthony and Paul to just introduce yourself a little bit to our audience, and really think about a time also when you're about 8 to 12 years, when you had this vision in your mind that one day you'd be in London and you'd be interacting with someone who is in Seattle, who is also an African brother like you, about theater and about your gifts that you've been sharing with the world for so many years.
Well, maybe I'll start. Yes, I'm Anthony Ofoegbu. I'm an actor based in London, and I've been my career has spanned over about 30 years. But the 8 to 12 years that you're talking about, it's funny where you find yourself in the world as an actor, and work can take you all around the world. And I say, fortunately, I have traveled quite extensively. And over the last few years, work has brought me to the United States, which is where you and I met, Simon, at the Moore Theatre.
That's right.
When I was involved in the play Barbershop Chronicles.
That's right.
Hailed out of the National Theatre, so it's always a pleasure to travel and take your work elsewhere, so people can see sort of cultural differences and experience, theatrical differences.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Brother Paul, please share with us a little bit. And I'll come back to you, Anthony, because I just wanted our viewers and our listeners to just have an opportunity to hear from Paul a little bit. But I didn't hear your childhood story. Part of the reason why I asked that at the beginning in the African Father in America podcast is because of why it was started. This is a podcast that actually is really aligned with the Conundrum, the play that we're discussing today, especially because it's focused on men, That's why it's called the African Father in America podcast. And it was inspired by the passing of a Kenyan man that was found in a bed and breakfast in Vancouver, Washington. And it was someone that I knew. He was a creative like us, and he was a young father too, like myself. So, his passing really shook me personally, and also a lot of people in our community. We saw a trend of young people committing suicide, not just here, but also in Africa, So the theme of the Conundrum, the play that Brother Paul directed, is something that is very relevant to the conversations we are having. So whenever I interview a guest, I always talk to them about, because we want to inspire people, we really want to start from like your childhood. What were some of the things, the dreams that made you continue building onto the same thread until who you've become, Yeah. And I figured out the echo. Now I'm very happy. I feel good now.
That's good.
Yeah, when something sounds different, even if it's your house and something just sounds different, it bothers you. You want to look around and find out what is this that is going on. Yeah. So, Brother Paul.
Yeah. So my childhood is quite a colourful one, because at the age of 8, actually, my parents enrolled me into a stage school called Barbershop, which is one of only 3 stage schools in the country. So there was Barbershop, Italia Conte, and Corona. So as a young child, my parents used to watch, or sorry, my grandparents used to watch a lot of black and white movies. And the Nicholas brothers became a very favorite role models of mine. And I used to, as a child, really love to watch their movies when they're on. I mean, most of the time, guest starring in other people's movies. But I wanted to be a tap dancer just like them. So I was enrolled into a stage school at around about the age of 8 and 9. And I remember the first day that I was taken for an interview. And in the reception room, before I had my interview, I could hear tap dancing taking place. And for me, it was probably one of the most thrilling, most exciting moments of my life up until then. That here I was going to have an opportunity to learn how to tap dance and to be like my heroes of the time, which was the Nicholas brothers. So I joined the school. It was a performing arts school. And then throughout the years, my role models changed. After the Nicholas brothers, my next role model was Sidney Poitier. I wanted to be just like Sidney Poitier. I adored and watched anything that came on TV that was about Sidney Poitier. So I wanted to be an actor, and I would try to stylize my acting style. I would try to imitate and copy what Sidney did. Sidney was very intelligent, very articulate. And very still. He had this stillness, this quality, which I totally gravitated towards and tried to cultivate as an actor. And then the next role model that I had after Sidney Poitier was Muhammad Ali, who was just exceptional. Both as a sportsman, but then as an African American. The way that he led his life and the champion that he became within and without the boxing ring, he was my next role model. So throughout my teenage years, those were the 3 men who had the biggest influence on me until I read Malcolm X's autobiography, and he became the next person who I became enthralled with.
Wow.
So that's how I got into the performing arts and have more or less remained within the performing arts ever since.
Wow. Yeah, you know, when Anthony and I connected in Seattle, it was amazing. It reminded me so much of the acting scene and my involvement with the acting scene in Kenya, and how much that gave me even the confidence to do things like this show that we're doing today on YouTube, you know. And you know, I just wanted both of you to describe to me, you know, again back to when you are around, you know, 10 to 12 years old. What was the acting scene, or even up to 15 years, what was the acting scene like? Just paint a picture for us, maybe through a memory of a play that you're involved with at that age that you still think of whenever you go on stage, or even work on a play as a director currently.
Well, let me go back because I didn't understand your question. I thought give us a sort of an explanation of about 8 to 12 years of your acting career, and I didn't realize you were saying
no.
you were 8 to 12. So like Paul, now let me just give you a small anecdote, and this is really the start, unbeknownst to me, of why I'm still here as an actor today. There was something that I was involved in at school, in my primary school, which you go to primary school up to the age of 10, I think, and then at the age of 11, you join a secondary school. So whether I was about 7 or 8, for me, I think I was about 7, if my memory serves me correctly, which is sometimes a rare one today. I was on stage doing a school play. I was had the role of a king. singing something about custard and mustard, and the headmaster, Mr. O'Prey, I think his name was standing beside a woman and said, that boy, he's a nuisance in class, but he's really good up on the stage, and the woman that he was talking to turned around and said to him, yes, I know, that's my son.
Was that your mom?
That was my mother. Come down obviously to see, end of year play or something like that. And I never knew it was going to be my career. So unlike Paul, I don't have that wonderful trajectory. I sort of come to the conclusion that theatre found me. I didn't find it very, very much later when I went to further college, where I was meant to take all the academic subjects and everything else, and ended up joining a dance theatre company group, which disbanded, and then we regrouped, which is, as you were saying earlier on, that helped to found a dance theatre company called Ford's Company Dance Theatre. From there, sort of entered into the physical acting arena and have not looked back since.
Wow. Yeah, I keep thinking about the play where we first met Anthony. That's when you're in Seattle, and I feel that it would be nice for us to first let the audience know a little bit about what we're talking about. So I just want to go back, and for our viewers and our listeners, I'm having a beautiful conversation with my brothers who are joining us from London. And I first connected with both of them through Anthony, who was part of a play that I want him to describe, because most of the show was inside a barbershop, the Barbershop Chronicles, right?
That's right.
Then we want to move from the Barbershop Chronicles and come to the Conundrum. So once you describe the Barbershop Chronicle, we are going to transition so that our brother Paul can also describe the Conundrum. And my hope is that for our audience, through these two different stories of these two plays, they will also be able to have an understanding of both of you in a little deeper way. Then we'll continue the conversation after that. So please, brother Anthony.
So there's so the Barbershop Chronicles is a play that was written by a Nigerian writer based in the UK, in London, called Inua Elams. And the show was taken on by the National Theatre of London, and was produced by the company Fuel, and directed by Bijan Shibani, who hails out of London as well. And the Chronicles is a series of stories that take place in a barbershop of African men who are from all parts of Africa, and these are stories that are sort of father to son stories that talk about love, life, and loss, and chronicles the everyday experiences of men who find barbershops as a safe haven to sort of really be open as black men, whereas they can't be open in on the ordinary street. Really, they can't really be themselves. And even you and I, Simon, were talking about the fact that black barbershops are places of sanctuary for black men to really come out and express themselves, and can feel a sense of camaraderie, and be really the men that they are, because we're living in such a society that has such a deconstruct of equality, so we're dealing with all sorts of structural inequalities, and so stories unfold in the barbershop, which are quite enlightening, quite emotional, and very telling. And it was a very successful play, as you saw, and we toured all around America, and that was 2018, I think November 2018. We were in Seattle, wonderful city of Seattle, at the Moore Theatre, And some of us went on to do a little workshop at the Langston Hughes Institute of Art, which is a beautiful place as well. And then in 2019, we did a tour of the UK, and so it's been very widespread. We've taken the play around, and now it's in the archives of memories everywhere now. Yeah.
Right. It was amazing how in the play, you moved from the play moved from Nigeria to South Africa, from South Africa to London, and it was in barbershops in all these countries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had links because maybe one character in one barbershop, maybe in one African country, had an uncle who was going to another barbershop in London. So the links were very, very clever in that sense. And so they all had a correlation, you know, and so people could easily relate to, wherever the story was taking place.
Yeah.
So the scenes would cut from one barbershop in one area, in one country, to another barbershop, and so there'd be familial links. Each barbershop.
And soccer was also something else that tied the whole story together in a really cool way. Football.
We call football here.
So Brother Paul, talk to us a little bit about the Conundrum. What inspired you to write it, and where it is currently, and and some of the next steps that, like, for example, how some of the viewers and also myself, how we can support you, between now and the future. How where you want to go with it, because I'm excited. Anthony sent me a video and I didn't want to watch it until we had this conversation. I just wanted to enjoy it really right after this, so I just want to know you a little bit more.
I mean, I think just quickly going back to your earlier question in terms of what was it like, the acting scene like in our early pre-teenage years. Just to quickly answer to that question, very bleak. Is the straightforward answer, succinct answer. Just like in America, we were fighting the same inequality issues that African Americans or black people all over the world were engaged in, which was number one, recognition, and then having the capacity to be able to tell our own stories, to actually have agency, and to use that agency to be able to perpetuate a particular worldview that was specific to our historical and contemporary concerns. So the struggle was no different to the global struggle that us as Africans, us as black people, were encountering throughout the globe. So very similar narrative, so to speak, with regards to the arts, because the arts is such a powerful platform. And so therefore one of the things that any society does is want to be able to control that sphere of life. Because in being able to control that sphere of life, you can actually dictate what a particular community looks like, and most importantly, the kind of world perception that you want the world to have of that particular community. So that's always been an ongoing struggle in our history over the past 500 years. The play Conundrum again touches on some of the issues that's already been raised, which is to do with the fact that we wanted to create a story about a particular generation, which is Anthony and I's generation, which expressed again some of the kind of historical and structural inequalities that we faced in the formative years of our lives, and how those inequalities have become shaping factors for the way in which, number one, we have conducted our lives, but number two, the available opportunities for us as men, as women, as a community, to be able to self-articulate, to self-express our particular worldview. So that was the basis of Conundrum. How could we actually capture the story of an individual from his childhood up until present time? So it covers basically a 35-year time span in this individual's life. And what we decided to do with this particular project was to ensure that the central character was someone who had a huge IQ, very, very high IQ, but structurally was being opposed and structurally was being oppressed from fulfilling his lifelong ambitions, but not just his lifelong ambitions, but to fulfill the ambitions that equate with his intellect. And what happens when somebody who has a very large IQ is being prevented from fulfilling their natural talents, their natural gifts, their natural qualities? What psychologically, spiritually, mentally, even physiologically, what happens to that particular person? So when you were reading out the synopsis, it says it's a story about a man who has a very large IQ, trying to exist within a society that has not yet evolved. What does it actually look like? And we thought it was a theme that many people could, in our community, that many people could relate to.
But that's what's going on now. If you look at even the world, you know, a lot of people who fit the depiction of Fidel, the character in the Conundrum. Even me, I'm going through that right now, because I feel like, you know, I know that we should be in a better place than we are. In America, we should not, as black men, we should not be walking in fear. We should not be raising our kids in fear in 2021. You know, in Africa, you know, and then we should not be seeing a scene like what we saw this Wednesday, you know, at the capital of the US. You know, and the same story goes on even in Europe, in Africa. So really, the Conundrum is a very timely, you know, piece of work. So I want to let you continue, Brother Paul, please.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's really important about Conundrum is 9 times out of 10, what happens to communities that are being marginalized is that the wider society, or what we call mainstream society, is never really critiqued properly with regards to the kind of relationships that they have with the African American or the Black community or the Pan-Africanist community worldwide. So what we want to do is to flip the focus. And it's really important to understand when we say in the piece, a man with an IQ, very high IQ, who exists within a society that's not yet evolved, is for us to actually understand that the quality or the content of somebody's life, which is normally the individual is normally the one who is being questioned. He or she is normally the one where the questions are being asked, i.e., why aren't they achieving more? Why aren't they doing X, Y, and Z? We wanted to flip the question and say, actually, the issue is that the society itself in which the person lives is not evolved. It's not politically evolved, not socially evolved, not spiritually evolved. So we wanted to turn the question and say, hold on a minute. If this individual has this huge IQ, all right, he or she has the capacity and the ability to be able to advance, have agency, have self-determination, but all of that is being jeopardized because the society in which he lives in is not an evolved society. Then we can begin to start asking very serious questions about what's the way forward for that individual or for that community in of itself.
Right.
And so what this character, when he realizes that he is not the problem, actually, I am not the problem. I am not the problem. When he realizes that he's not the problem, he then conducts a life review on stage. He conducts a life review on stage, and then we go back in time and we begin to see his whole personal experience begin to unravel within today's current context.
Now, is it just one character on stage the entire time?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
It's not just one entire character.
Okay.
But because it's a live review, we have one central character who's on stage all the time.
Okay. And that's Fidel.
And that is the character Fidel. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I can't wait to see it. Is that the video you sent me, Anthony?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I can't wait to see it. I'm excited. There's an energy that a play gives you. There's a satisfaction that a play gives you because it's real people. It's people you know, kind of proving to you that your mind can be bent through a story, and they do it. They win your trust, and they take you to a journey that enables you to understand a situation that you are removed from, and that's the experience I had when I watched your last play, but also the plays I was involved with in Kenya. And I just feel that the art scene, like earlier Brother Paul was saying, that the art scene dies when the regimes or the leadership feels threatened. They kill the art scene so that the authentic expression of local artists and local creatives and activists cannot be seen or cannot be consumed. So then you find a lot of movies and a lot of things that brainwash people and put a lot of, expose people to all sorts of things that are not good for them. So the local art talent is not thriving because of that. I wanted both of you to just speak of what you think the state of theatre in the UK is, and also generally when you look at the African diaspora, whether it's in Africa as well. What do you think the state of theatre is? I remember growing up, every weekend there was a play sometimes there were like 3 plays going on, and my hometown was the 3rd largest city, Then when I moved to Nairobi, almost every day there was a play going on. But now, well, I had one play was going on in Seattle recently, but it was just one. But I feel like it really tells a story that is supported by how people are feeling and how the economy is suffering and how people are feeling oppressed. And I just wanted both of you to speak about that, because we're also living in a time where everything has to be whatever you do, whatever platform you have, you really have to be aware that the world is in a time of transition, and we have to be able to, as people who are social commentators, a podcaster like myself and actors like yourself and directors and people who have been doing this for a while. Even if you look at Ngugi wa Thiong'o, do you both know Ngugi wa Thiong'o?
I know of him, but I've not, to my chagrin, I've not read his works actually. Yeah.
He's like a peer to Wole Soyinka, he's from Kenya originally, and when earlier in the early years after Kenya got independence, there are plays that he used to produce and direct that made him go to jail many times. And that's part of why he's still in exile in the US, because of the plays that he used to develop and produce that were helping preserve the native language and awaken people, because people are being only encouraged to speak in English and Kiswahili, but people are being encouraged to forget about their native languages, which, so it's, I just know that this is something that is so important for every society, not just the African or Black society, but I think it's not emphasized enough. It's not taken seriously enough. I don't understand why. So I'm just curious to get your thoughts around it.
Well, we were talking about structural inequalities. I mean, that even, has its strikes through theatre as well, and who influences theatre.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you talked about Ngugu, and
Ngugu
Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was mainly, which had its days of colonization, and then the influence, Western, dominant culture influences that do affect theatre. And then, a lot of leaders, African leaders, had warped conceptions, again, influencing or being influenced by Western, diktat, and so, of course, people like Wole Soyinka, who I know because I'm of Nigerian origin as well, and I've worked with Soyinka. And if I just turn to him for a second and say what I understood when I was working with him is that what he wanted to do, even though he hailed out of Nigeria, as a Pan-African, wanted to hold a hand up, and like a mirror and say, have a good look at yourself, Africa, and try to see who you really are, not what you think you should be because of external influences, which had a lot to have had a lot of perverse influence on culture, and from which theatre stems from. So those are the structural inequalities that we're looking at and that we're trying to retrieve and revive, and heal, and feed again, the good food of thought, about our ancestry, about our beginnings, about our, true existences, which I don't think these stories have not been told. And as you said, we're in a change of flux and we're awakening again. And I think it's important that stories like these are there to assist in that healing program. And I think what Paul and I have found is that we want to believe that that's where we're going and that's what we're trying to, traject, and have our own mirrors and say, look, this is our mirror, and what our mirror is an influence of all those historical facts that we are aware of that have influenced us or have not influenced us, or influenced us in the wrong way. And I think we're trying to recorrect a lot of that. I mean, it's huge, as you sort of alluding to. It's very huge, and people like your man in Kenya and Wole Soyinka, and all these free thinkers, and external thinkers are trying to sew back together again. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
I think I'd like to say, like, from a cultural point of view, the concept of theatre, or which is, most forms of so-called entertainment, when you put them back within their cultural context, they were part of a collective. They were part of a collective, and that collective was based around multiple disciplines being a lens through which the society, the people within that society, were be able to observe themselves. So the whole, if you look at Dogon culture, and you find that this is the theory behind the Dogon culture is that in all the disciplines, whether it be religion, science, politics, economics, and arts, they're not seen as distinct, separate disciplines. What they're seen as individual lenses that are looking at the same subject matter. So what you have is a holistic approach to life, wherein these disciplines are not competing forces for attention amongst the multitude of the community, but what they are facets and aspects at diagnosing and looking at a particular issue. And so what theatre or the arts does, it presents a particular dialogue from a particular perspective. Well, what it doesn't do, which is what it does in the West, is that it doesn't negate the other disciplines. And so therefore there is this holistic approach to life. And theatre is very much part of that inclusive engagement and dialogue, where the community is able to look at itself, look at its trajectory, and then from a collective standpoint say, okay, we need either to enhance this aspect of life, do you know what I mean, or redevelop this aspect of life, but it's done from a holistic point of view. And that's where you get the communion, the community engagement within our cultural, within our culture, simply because that all the disciplines are sitting at the table and are involved in theoretically, practically, spiritually, and economically, are engaged in the trajectory to which or in which the community aspires and also wants to move. So theatre is part of a movement within our cultural framework. It's part of a movement, and it brings a particular type of vocabulary without negating the importance of all the others. So it is the mirror, so to speak. It is the mirror. It's the platform by which we can actually dramatize some of the phenomenons, all right, that the society is concerned, or some of the sociological issues that society is concerned with.
Wow, thank you.
Wow, thank you.
So you both live
So
in
you
London.
both live in London.
Okay. I wanted you to paint for us a picture of a theater where you both met, like how you guys connected. Have you been involved in a play together?
I was directing a play called 35 Cents in 2007, which basically was about, it was set in Jamaica, and it was about the debt situation.
So you are from Jamaica, right?
My immediate parents are, yeah.
Oh wow!
And
Great.
it was about the crippling debt situation in Jamaica that was increasing the levels of poverty within the country in of itself. And so it was looking at how the economy of the country and the politics of the country was being controlled externally because of IMF debt, the reconstruction of the economy to service debt. And so it was looking at this phenomenon in Jamaica, and we took the standpoint whereby we were going to have a group of students challenge the actual government with regards to politically where the country was being led to, and the fact that the debt situation actually for generations was undermining the future of the people of the island. And I was looking for, it had 5 characters, and I was looking for one of the characters who, it was an ensemble piece and they played multiple characters. And I was looking to cast the opposition leader called Mr. Samira. And I needed an actor who was extremely dynamic. And I'd seen Anthony a few years earlier in a Soenka play, which was at the Barbershop Theatre in London.
Oh,
the Lion and the Jewel. I saw Anthony in The Lion and the Jewel. And Anthony has a very dynamic and unusual performance style, which is extremely rare, not just within the African community, but also across all communities. Anthony has a very unique style of performance. And it was the exact thing that I was looking for. When I first saw Anthony, it was roundabout in that play. That was around about 2005? 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
And so I had waited 3 to 4 years before I could approach him to actually come and work in our company. So that's how we met. So I sent him the script, he read it, and straight away wanted to be engaged and involved. But I knew of him a few years before he became aware of who I was.
Yeah, we are
And
coming.
I think we met then. So I mean, as an individual actor, you know, we did this play, and then we sort of found ourselves coming back together to do more work. You know, many years later, and kind of realizing that actually the kind of work that we want to do are of similar ilk, and so hence the reason why we're talking to you today now and talking about Conundrum. You know. Having just produced that piece of work, on film, which was entered into the Rijeka Capital City of Culture Festival, which is just finished in December last month, 2020, the end of 2020, and we're going to go on to, revision it and in the very near future, hopefully.
Wow. We are coming towards the end of our conversation today, and I just wanted to know if Anthony and Paul, I just want to give you a minute or two to share anything I didn't ask you that you are hoping you'd have an opportunity to talk about today. And then, in addition, just let our viewers and our listeners understand how they can stay in touch with you. How they can stay in touch with you.
I think to stay in touch with us, we have a website, which is www.cryinginthewildernessproductions.com.
Could you actually talk about Crying in the Wilderness? Just take a moment and talk about Crying in the Wilderness. I think it's important that you really spend a little time on that.
So originally it was the play that I spoke to you about that I wanted to cast Anthony in. That was originally the name of the play, Crying in the Wilderness Productions. And then it got changed to 35 cents because it was a play about debt and economics. We changed it to 35 cents because it was it was a more succinct title and more direct with regards to, more relative with regards to the content of the piece. At the time, out of every dollar, the Jamaican government was paying back 65 cents to service its debt out of every single dollar, which meant they had 35 cents out of every dollar with which to run the country with. So you can actually see the severe impact that the debt servicing, debt repayment was costing the country and the citizens of the island in of itself. So we changed it to 35 cents. But Crying in the Wilderness, so I took the name of the title of the play and I said, I'm going to create a company called Crying in the Wilderness Productions. And I suppose it was a provocative decision because it means so many different things to so many different people. Every time someone will ask me, what does it mean? I always say, what do you think it means to you? And we get a variety of different responses. But the whole idea really for me, I think, there's a biblical aspect to it that people always go to, which is not the reason for the name of the title. The wilderness for us is a place, for most people, is a place of hardship, a place of difficulty, lifelessness. Everybody says in the desert nothing lives. Well, actually, there is a multitude of life that actually exists within that environment. So we wanted to use it. I use it as a means whereby it's a place of retreat. It's a place where you go to for introspection. It's a place you go to kind of really. It's a place of solitude. And it enables you to be able to really reflect, to go inside, and to really harness all the qualities, all the values, all your ambitions, all your desires. It's a place for you to go in solitude, in quietness, and to really galvanize those aspects of yourself and to bring them to a very strong and also very critical, self-evaluating height in order for you to strengthen yourself and then to be able to go back into your normal environments and be able to manage your issues, manage your joy with steel so that you can continue to exist in the manner in which you want to perpetuate yourself or your community or your business. So it's a place of refreshment. It's like a boot camp, basically. It's an oasis. An oasis, a place that you go to re-strengthen, to harness, to galvanize, and then to come back strengthened and refreshed, so that you can exist within a more dynamic realm.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Anthony, I want you also to just share with us anything I didn't ask and also how people can stay connected with you.
Well, the fact that we're talking on your network, One Vibe Conversations, is doing just that for us. And you know, having toured America and met you there, you know, we want to take our work, you know, and share it with everyone. So this is a fantastic platform that that, you know, your listeners you know can enjoy for us and with us, you know. And maybe you'll call us back again. But as Paul was saying, this is our website, www.cryinginthewilderness.com is where you can find us and review our work and see our work and see what we're trying to achieve, you know, step by step, you know. And we've got so much that we want to tell, you know. It's not just one play. We have so much work, you know, and it just takes time. And of course, as we say, we're in a time of flux, but we're using that opportunity to really, you know, bed down and see how we can start to really, you know, nurture the work that we know we can give out, you know. So watch this.
Yeah, you know, when I was watching you on stage, I didn't know that we could actually be talking today.
Well, there we are.
I envisioned building a relationship. You know, for me, before I even go somewhere, when I watched the promo for the play, we helped promote it, you know. We helped spread the word and we helped bring people. We were given a lot of, you know, organizations like STG, Seattle Theatre Group. They have work with us to bring the African audience to see African plays like that. And for me, what's exciting is to bring our people so that they don't stop bringing African plays, you know. And bringing African musicians and doing things that will make more African people want to stay here, you know. But watching it was just so moving, and you know, I hope you know how much respect people have for you and Paul as well. You know, Paul, your accomplishments are just, you know, indescribable, and I just appreciate you both for taking the time and, you know, spending this time with me. And we will definitely come back and do this again. I am still learning how to use Ecam, this program that I'm using to go live on YouTube, and even
very well.
and even doing this show, I'm also still learning. You know, I started this podcast just as an audio podcast in May last year. Again, in response to what happened, what I was describing earlier, but also because I felt that I needed a platform where I can do things like what we're doing, you know, because when somebody you're close to, and, you know, and again in October I lost my mom, you know, so when two people like that just go away like that, it's scary. So I felt that I want to do what I can now, and the internet is allowing me to do that, you know. And you know, now that we've done this, when we do it next time, it will be much better. We will be able to watch this video, share it with people. So we will do this again for the Conundrum, you know. We'll just give ourselves like, you let me know, you know, this is what we plan.
On each other's support, unequivocally. That's you know, needn't be said, really.
I mean, I think I've got a friend in London called Kevin Bismarck Cobham. And one of the things that he himself is really concerned with, that we as artists, or even just as ordinary citizens of the world, that we do as Africans, is to beseech, to always pander to wanting to validate ourselves to other people. That we have a right, actually, to have the voice that we want to express and have, and to do it from a self-empowering perspective, rather than to always be begging or beseeching to be given a platform to do X, Y, and Z. And so that the idea that you have seized the opportunity to create your own platform, to be, you know, to have agency and to be responsible for the content and for the people that you have in your show, to determine the concept of what, you know, your radio station is going to be, and for ensuring that there's a particular value system that earmarks and contextualizes all that you're going to do in the future. That's really important for us to, as artists and as brothers, to articulate that, as Kevin would say, that we're not beseeching, we're not asking for the opportunity for self-expression. It's an innate capacity that we have to have a voice and to actually speak from a place of centered consciousness, which is about actually declaring what our value systems are, all right, and also the worldview that we are aspiring to attain and to bring to manifest upon this planet. So I think what you're doing is great. It's wonderful.
Brilliant.
And this kind of engagement between African people all over the world, it's a new thing for us within the scope of the past 500 years, because, as you know, we've been through certain phenomena that have prevented us from being able to come together and actually share ideas and be the family that we once were. The technology that is now available to us enables us actually to now create physically and from a conceptual point of view, that community, that consciousness, all right, that will enable us to really validate from our own cultural basis the type of human beings that we want to express.
And so this is very pioneering, you know, and you're at the forefront. You're a pioneer, Simon, for you know, all intent and purpose, you know, and the fact that we're doing this now is extraordinary and wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So
thank you. We will continue strengthening it so that the quality of what we do and the platforms we have is even better than other people's platforms, you know. And when I say other people, I mean organizations run by white people, because we are never given opportunities there. So, you know, for me, I was raised in the slum, and when there is an opportunity, you find ways to participate, you know, so that you're not left behind. And so this is a response to the need, and the way that the coronavirus is shaping the future. The only way we can express ourselves is through our own platforms and through having the tools, so that anytime you can go live in a high quality manner and engage and express yourself, but also invite people who are doing things that need to be heard to express themselves as soon as they need to. And so hearing that from both of you, and knowing how much time you've both spent perfecting or mastering your craft, means a lot to me, because it's not easy to do good quality work. You know, people do many things, but to do something that is respected, that somebody, you know, way back in Kenya where I grew up, if let's say you want to build a house, and the roof is always a very sensitive part of it, and you will find that there's a very specific person that does roofing for almost all houses. So if you walk in like an entire village, you find the roof are exactly the same. The houses might be different, but the roofs are so similar. And so for somebody to build a reputation, it takes time and effort and a lot of suffering. And so your feedback means a lot, and I just want to give you the same feedback, that I have so much love and respect to you. And with that, you know, we are going to come to the end of our conversation today. I want to thank everybody that is watching. I want to ask you to visit www.cryinginthewilderness.org, right? Or is it .uk? .com.
Yeah.
Cryinginthewilderness.com.
Cryinginthewildernessproductions.com.
Cryinginthewildernessproductions.com. Perfect. Perfect. And I want to thank you for supporting the African Father in America podcast. I know there are so many of you who have subscribed to us here on YouTube. Thank you very much. And also thank you for the comments and for really watching today's show. For those who are supporting us on iTunes, thank you for listening and thank you for subscribing and rating us over there. Please follow me on Twitter at Javan Okelo, on Instagram, Simon Javan Okelo. And I'm just grateful and have a beautiful weekend. All right.
Same to you.
Same to you. Same to you.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African Father in